we thought a little bit differently. Let's get to the root cause of aging skin, of what causes the fine lines and wrinkles and the age spots and the blemishes. And it really boils down to really any age-related chronic disease. So when you have an insult or an injury, whether it's intentional or unintentional, now your body can actually mobilize stem cells, repair and replace those damaged cells or cells that were intentionally removed. And that's really the basics of skincare. And that's a completely new class in beauty and aesthetics. It's really getting to the root cause.
Hi, welcome to another Heartbeat Happy Hour episode. I'm your host, Anthony Turturro, with my co-host, Dr. Nathan Bryan. You might recognize that we're on a different set right now. We're actually here celebrating at Nathan's ranch. So, cheers, my friend.
Cheers. Welcome. Glad to have you.
Yeah. Tonight's topic, skincare.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about youthful skin, the fountain of youth. And how does nitric oxide play a role in that?
Well, we have to remember the skin is an outward reflection of our internal health. So if you're not healthy internally, you're not going to have good skin. People spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars every year on skincare products, beauty products that hide and mask the fine lines and wrinkles, the age spots, the acne. And I think, obviously the beauty industry is a multi-billion-dollar a year business.
Yeah.
Because people spend the money to do this. And so we thought a little bit differently. Let's get to the root cause of aging skin, of what causes the fine lines and wrinkles and the age spots and the blemishes. And it really boils down to really any age-related chronic disease. It's lack of circulation, lack of blood flow, lack of proper oxygen and nutrient delivery.
Yeah.
And that's what nitric oxide does. So nitric oxide certainly is, I think, could be part of the fountain of youth.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Now, what about for all these people seeking different treatments for anti-aging, more surgical procedures, invasive, so forth?
Well, look, plastic surgery and facial and reconstructive surgery has been around for decades, probably 100 years. And in many cases, it's necessary. But now there's an emerging field or science around non-surgical facelifts and kind of non-surgical modalities to improve or tighten the skin. There's the threads, there's, microdermabrasion, there's microneedling, there's CO2 laser, which basically takes off the outer layer of your skin. But again, if your skin is unhealthy in the first place and you subject it to an injury, do you reasonably think that you're going to get some good healing and restoration and formation of a better skin? I mean, let's get back to the basics of physiology and what it takes for skin to look healthy, to have hydration, to have collagen, to have adequate blood supply, and to actually mediate an immune response and for wound healing. So when you have an insult or an injury, whether it's intentional or unintentional, now your body can actually mobilize stem cells, repair and replace those damaged cells or cells that were intentionally removed. And that's really the basics of skincare. And that's a completely new class in beauty and aesthetics. It's really getting to the root cause.
I mean, people are really taking a risk when they try to choose some of these surgical types of options, right?
Well, look, I think it all comes down to the surgeon.
Yeah.
And now I think the biggest risk we're seeing in aesthetics and skincare are fillers. You've got really some estheticians and people who probably aren't proper trained, because you have to understand the anatomy of the face and where nerves are and where blood vessels are. And so what we've seen a lot of is people injecting fillers into blood vessels and causing vascular occlusions, which then leads to necrosis, and you can get gangrene, you can get infections from it, and really lead to some critical situations.
Okay.
And so that's the risk. And so with any facial procedure, whether it's surgical or non-surgical, number one, you have to understand the risk. And two, what's the benefit? And then really weigh the risk versus benefit and make an informed, educated decision on, is this the right choice for me at this time?
So for people who mention like my skin type, I have sensitive skin and so forth, how would they actually use some kind of supplement, let's say the nitric oxide serum? Is this something that someone who has sensitive skin would need to worry about?
Well, look, skin sensitivity is sensitive for a reason, right? It's either you have some allergy or it's you're exposed to some, noxious chemical that's going to cause some sensitivity or some reaction. But what we do in terms of creating nitric oxide-based products is we know how much nitric oxide a healthy human being makes. We know what goes wrong in people that can't make it. And our philosophy is let's give back, supplement back, and restore and recapitulate normal nitric oxide production and signaling. So when we basically do what the body's naturally intended, there is no sensitivity issues. There are no adverse events. There are no adverse reactions because this is how the body is designed to work. And we're just basically giving the body a source of nitric oxide that it's lost the ability to make at levels that would have normally produced.
So when you say lost the ability to make, would you say that loss of ability would play a role in the actual anti-aging process?
Absolutely. Well, it contributes to the aging process because the skin is an organ.
Yeah.
Just like the heart, just like the brain, just like the sex organs. And when you lose the ability to regulate blood flow to that organ eventually fails and it becomes dysfunctional. So, just like in the heart, if you have advanced coronary artery disease and you have compromised blood flow to the heart, bad things happen. If you can't regulate blood flow to the brain, you develop vascular dementia and Alzheimer's, bad things happen. When you lose the ability to regulate blood flow to the skin, bad things happen, right?
Yeah.
You don't get the oxygen nutrients to the cells. You can't mobilize stem cells. So you can't repair and replace dysfunctional cells. You lose collagen, you lose hydration, and you get fine lines and wrinkles. Your skin starts to sag. You get age spots. You get blemishes. Many times you get many types of dermatitis and even acne. So I think if we can just focus on removing from the body what the body doesn't need, giving back to the body what's missing, then the human body is regenerative by nature. And now we can improve cellular turnover, we can mobilize stem cells, we can improve collagen deposition, improve hydration, and the skin will benefit from that.
So if I am already on a skincare routine, let's say I've got a cleanser, I've got a moisturizer and so forth. When we say bring moisture back to the skin, wouldn't my moisturizer already do that? Why would I need a nitric oxide product?
Well, again, I think our philosophy is much different than any other major skincare company and brands out there because, they're basically trying to, again, mask and provide moisture that the body is lacking. And so we have to remember, why is the body losing its ability to maintain moisture and hydration?
Okay.
And so what I like to do is, again, understand the basic physiology, understand the mechanism of disease to the extent that you can restore that particular function. And so what nitric oxide has been proven to do is, and we've done this through tissue biopsies, we've done it through non-invasive imaging, quantificare, thermography. So we improve perfusion of the skin, we improve cellular turnover, we improve collagen deposition, and we improve hydration. And hydration really translates into moisture.
Yeah. So if I'm someone who suffered from acne at a young age and deal with scarring, I'm insecure and so forth, is nitric oxide something that could actually help with that?
Absolutely. We've demonstrated that clinically. So the scar from acne, from teenage acne, people have to live this for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And before it was thought that that's permanent. You can't remodel that. But what we're learning with what nitric oxide does is it's the signal that tells our own stem cells to mobilize and differentiate. So we have an infinite number of stem cells in our body, and aging is just loss of the inability or the inability to mobilize those stem cells. And so what scarring is, if we can just exfoliate that scar, repair and remodel that tissue, and replace it with normal cells that function properly, then you can really mitigate and really resolve that scar formation. And we've seen that clinically. People had 12 to 15-year-old teenage scars. 30 days of using the nitric oxide serum twice a day, we get almost complete remodeling and mitigate the scar formation, almost get complete resolution. And I think as we continue to do that and provide nitric oxide, I think we're seeing that we can overcome a lot of, even old scars. But what we're finding is the newer the incision, the newer the scar, the better the effects of nitric oxide. But even, like I said, in 10, 12, 15-year-old scars, nitric oxide, the topical nitric oxide has been shown to bring pretty good resolution to those scars that were once thought permanent.
So, my original question was around acne scars, but you're saying that this would deal with just any scars on the body?
Any scar, whether it's scars from trauma, from surgery, cesarean sections in women, surgical scars.
Okay.
If you apply the nitric oxide serum to that, we basically mobilize the immune response, mobilize stem cells, and basically repair that scar tissue and replace it with cells that work properly.
So as we age, we also experience more exposure to the sun overall, right? We after summer, we've been taking that family trip to the beach and so forth, and we've started to notice sunspots on our body. Would nitric oxide support any benefits there with handling sunspots?
Well, look, there's a lot going on with that, and most people, unfortunately, are using sunscreens. And what we're finding is that the exposure to the sunscreen is actually more toxic and damaging and dangerous than exposure to the sun. Anything in nature, you can overdo it. Too much exposure to sunlight is obviously going to burn the skin, cause damage, and then depending upon the health of that particular person, how are they able to repair and replace that damaged tissue? If they're unhealthy, then no, they're not. And they're probably going to get age spots and they're going to get sunspots and the skin's not going to repair. People who are healthy, you may get a sunburn, you'll exfoliate, you'll peel, but then you just replace those damaged cells with normal cells that function properly. And you don't get the sunspots. But here's the problem. I think, and this is what I tell people all the time. I don't use sunscreen. I think the dangers and risk of most sunscreens out there far outweigh any benefit. I mean, sunlight is healthy. We need sunlight. It controls our circadian rhythm. It controls, blood pressure by the release of nitric oxide. It regulates vitamin D metabolism. I mean, everything that we know about physiology, the sunlight plays an important role in it. So, look, 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on the time of the day, where you live, where you're exposed to the sun. But you just have to cover up. You can still enjoy the beach. Wear a long sleeve shirt, wear a cap, wear a hat, and just cover up. You can still enjoy the outdoors. But I think smothering yourself in a toxic, aluminum-ridden, chemical-ridden sunscreen is far worse. It causes more health consequences than exposure to the sun.
It's actually kind of funny that you mentioned that, because when I notice different lawn companies, or when you charter like a fishing boat or something like that, you don't see them shirtless wearing a bunch of sunscreen. You see them wearing long sleeve shirts.
They're completely covered.
It's just completely covering every inch of their body. So that actually,
even on the the people who work on the highway, like here in Texas, the Department of Transportation, people who are working on the roads, they're completely covered. Even in the summer when it's 100, 110 degrees on the roadway, they got hats on, they got long sleeve shirts on, they've got bandanas covering their neck. And so they're protecting themselves from overexposure of the sun. But yet they're still out there. Even though you don't have the direct sunlight, you're still getting the benefits of sunlight and the radiation from natural sun. And so where people who are using sunscreens completely shield that, and they're getting the consequences of the chemicals in that sunscreen.
Okay. What about hyperpigmentation?
I think, again, more people are more susceptible. Certain people are more susceptible to that than others. And again, it's the body's ability to respond to an insult or injury, right? And people who have hyperpigmentation typically have some type of compromised ability to respond to that trauma or that stimulus. So I think if we focus on what it takes to be healthy, again, give the body what it needs, remove from the body any toxins, and the body's always going to respond. Right? We're constantly bombarded with insults from toxins, from the environment, from the food we eat, from trauma. And healthy people recover and they repair. And that's because their body is adapted to be able to mobilize stem cells, repair and replace dysfunctional cells, downregulate the chronic inflammation, prevent immune dysfunction, oxidative stress, and the body's able to heal. But if you're compromised in that, then a lot of things happen. I mean, you call it hyperpigmentation, but it's really the inability to respond to some trauma or stimulus.
So we spoke about hydration before. Some people would consider hydration to be electrolytes, antioxidants, and so forth. Let's say antioxidants. Does that play any type of role, nitric oxide related, skincare related, anything like that?
Yeah, look, oxidative stress is a huge problem. And oxidative stress means that you have more oxidants than you have antioxidants. And so biochemically speaking, oxidation is when you lose an electron, right? And so in biochemistry, we just count electrons, but every biochemical reaction is basically just the transfer of electrons. So if we have too much oxidative stress and not enough antioxidants, then we get into this redox imbalance. And oxidative stress leads to many chronic conditions, including, poor skin and poor wound healing and poor repair.
Okay.
So I think antioxidants are extremely important. Our body has its own antioxidant defense system. We have enzymatic antioxidants. We have water-soluble antioxidants like glutathione, vitamin C. We have fat-soluble antioxidants, like vitamin E. So the body is equipped with these antioxidants. But if we're exposed to too many oxidants, then it overwhelms our own antioxidant defense system.
Okay.
And so people can benefit from supplemental antioxidants or topical antioxidants to kind of supplement the body. But more importantly, you got to realize what's overwhelming our own body's defense system. Is it something in our body causing a lot of inflammation, oxidative stress? Is it the environment we live in? And then try to answer those questions, remove yourself from the source of exposure, and then support the body's own antioxidant defense systems.
So I like this topic with oxidants. How does someone like me, who is not very knowledgeable around science and so forth, how do I recognize if my body is experiencing a lot of oxidants? Environmentally, something I'm eating, diet-wise, supplement-wise, stress-wise, work-wise?
Well, the easiest way is to go get tested.
Okay.
There are a number of blood tests, there are a number of genetic tests where you can look and see if you have some single nucleotide polymorphism in a glutathione reductase enzyme or a thyroidoxin reductase enzyme or a glutathione peroxidase. So these are part of our own antioxidant defense system. So testing is the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
The other way is if you're not healthy and you deal with chronic disease and these nagging health conditions that your body's unable to recover from, then obviously something's wrong. And so you can look at, certain antioxidants in the body, glutathione, reduced glutathione to oxidized glutathione. You can look at circulating levels of, vitamin C, vitamin E, all these antioxidants. But if you're not healthy and you're not optimal, something's wrong. And then again, it gets back to the basics of figure out what's in your body that may be toxic, and then figure out what your body may be missing to do its job. So if you replete missing nutrients and you remove yourself from the source of exposure of toxins, then the body basically heals itself.
Okay. So let's say this, nitric oxide depletes as you age, right?
In the majority of the population, yes.
Okay. And then natural ways of bringing nutrients to our body. Where does diet fit in as we're aging to better ourselves skincare-wise, health-wise, fighting against oxidants and so forth?
Well, look, diet's the major contributor to chronic disease today. And it basically gets to the point that I just made earlier. Your body's exposed to a toxin or it's missing a certain nutrient. And here are the data. The food grown in America has seen a 78% decrease in basic micronutrients from the 1940s to the 2010s. So number one, the food we're eating in America is completely devoid of most nutrients. So our body's missing certain nutrients. Number two is all the herbicides, pesticides, and chemicals sprayed on the food today. We're exposing ourselves to chemicals, toxins inside the body. So every day when we eat, we're missing nutrients and we're exposing ourselves to chemicals. So to me, and basically at the end of the day, it disrupts nitric oxide production, which leads to compromised circulation, increased inflammation, oxidative stress, and immune dysfunction. And that's the hallmark of every single chronic disease. So diet is the main contributor to chronic disease, including poor complexion, poor health. So if your skin is aging and you're not healthy, the first thing I tell people to do is keep a food diary. Anything you put in your mouth, write it down. And you go back and you look at what you've done and you're not healthy and you go back and review that diary, the mystery is solved. People will recognize, no wonder I'm sick. Look what I've been eating.
Yeah.
Look at all the sugar I'm getting. And now people want to get their nutrients in the form of gummies and chews. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my 50 years of existence. is why would I want to give my nutrients in the form of a gummy or chew, which completely destroys the microbiome? But sugar glycates many enzymes, causing them dysfunctional. The last thing Americans need is exposure to more sugar. So get your nutrients directly from the source, from the food. But I tell people all the time, you have to go to your local farmer's market. Know your local farmers.
Yeah.
Know how they grow their food. And then support the local farmers. I mean, that's a huge benefit, because not only is it supporting them and their enterprise, but in that community that you're getting food that's hopefully going to be nutrient dense, and understand how they do their agriculture. Is it herbicide, pesticide free? Are they adding fertilizer and nutrients to the soil so that that plant and vegetable can actually assimilate the nutrients from the soil? If you're planting your crops in a soil that's depleted of nutrients, then how in the hell are the plants going to assimilate that? There's nothing there to assimilate. And so we're completely depleted. And this goes back to the days of Linus Pauling. Won 2 Nobel Prizes, pretty smart guy. And he was famously quoted as saying that all chronic disease is caused by nutrient deficiency. And now I think, fast forward 50 years, I think we can add on that and say, yeah, it's nutrient deficiency, but it's also exposure to toxins, because you can replete a lot of missing nutrients and vitamins and mineral. But if you're ridden with toxins from the foods you eat and the environment you live in, repleting those missing nutrients isn't going to make you healthy. Now you have to focus on removing the toxins and replacing the missing nutrients. And now the body can heal.
Yeah. I remember back probably about 10 years ago when I started working with professional athletes, college athletes, and so I was blown away when I experienced so much of especially the college athletes. I mean, just stellar athletes, but their diet was crap. They wanted that sugar, they wanted the good tasting stuff. Now here we are at an elite level experiencing that. What is just the general population looking for? And then I think about the gummies, how all of a sudden that came out. It kind of started with the kids, supplements and so forth, to try to get kids to take supplements, right? But then it moved over to adults.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a marketing scheme where, hey, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin D, all the stuff that you need, but here's a nice, tasty, sugary supplement. Yeah. Now you don't mind taking it. Where personally, you don't eat kale because kale tastes bad. And now all of a sudden, kale tastes like a donut, right?
Yeah.
So, it makes me really think about how sometimes marketing can be very manipulating overall. And especially when companies are trying to tap more into the mass markets of distribution and so forth. And I really think consumers need to take a real eye on that and understand overall, when you're looking at a very cheap product, price-wise, you're looking at a formula that is more focused on taste rather than the actual efficacy of the product. I think it should be alarming to people.
No, it is alarming, and it's dangerous, and I have personal experience with this. When I was a picky eater as a kid, and then my kids were picky eaters when they were younger. And so, I'm informed, I'm educated. And so I knew that we had to give them the nutrients. And so we actually went down this path probably 10, 15 years ago, and we gave our kids the vitamins in the form of a gummy. And prior to that, we would take them to the dentist once or twice a year, get cleanings, routine dental exams, and they had perfect teeth, perfect oral hygiene. And then a year later, after we started these gummies with the vitamins, they had 3, 4 cavities. I mean, because what do? You take your vitamins at night before you go to bed. They'd already brushed their teeth, they come down, they take these gummies and chews, and now that gets in their teeth, changes the microbiome, acidifies their saliva, and it causes caries and cavities. So were they getting the benefits of the missing nutrients that they weren't getting from their diet? Maybe. Did that benefit outweigh the risk of the cavities? Absolutely not. So these are fads. And so we have to get away from the fads and recognize what's the science. And the fact is, there is science on it, but the science isn't good. I mean, these companies don't market the science because if they did, nobody would buy their product.
Yeah.
And so you have to get away from gummies, chews, anything in this sugar matrix, this liquid matrix, and just get your nutrients directly from the source.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So what would be your overall recommendation for the people listening for just how to go forward with a skincare routine?
Well, as I mentioned, you have to get yourself healthy.
Yeah.
Your skin cannot look healthy and look young if you're not healthy internally. The skin is an outward reflection of your internal health. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you smoke, I still can't believe people smoke today. I mean, the dangers of smoke, I know it's addictive and people do it, but that's the worst thing. The data, we have 100-year data on that. Mm-hmm. Smoking, it ruins your skin, it ruins your cardiovascular system. So if you smoke, you got to stop smoking if you're concerned about your skin. And then you got to change your diet. Okay. A balanced diet in moderation. You go back to the athletes, they can somewhat get away with this because they're active. And many athletes have to fuel with carbs because that's their fuel source. But if you're not an elite athlete and you're not active, the last thing you want to do is consume carbs.
Oh yeah.
But I think, change your diet, a balanced diet in moderation. I like intermittent fasting, a 16-hour fast every day. That basically, the data on that are pretty remarkable, that it induces mitochondrial biogenesis, it extends longevity, extends your telomeres, some upregulation of mitochondrial biogenesis, improved metabolism. And then, it's hard to make a one-size-fits-all, but for me, what works for me is I eat a lot of meat, mm-hmm. I eat some vegetables, I do intermittent fasting, but I only eat 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
So I eat within a 6 to 7 hour period. I eat from, say, 11 or 12, and my last meal is at 5:30 or 6 that same day. So I eat within a 6 or 7 hour period, but I eat clean food. Mm-hmm. I've gotten away from junk food, anything that's processed. I typically don't eat it, and you have to be cognizant. And to me, it's been life-changing. I haven't been sick in more than 20 years. And I'm on an airplane every week. I'm in a hotel. I'm in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and yet I don't get sick.
And I've attended some of these shows with you, and we'll do these tests that they have at the show. And dude, I'll tell you what, man, your cardiovascular tests are just through the roof, like A+, A.
Yeah.
It's like, it's pretty cool when I'm looking at you, slightly older than me, A+, and then I'm like a D or an F, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Well, that's most people.
Yeah.
That's most people. And the cardiovascular disease still is the number one killer of men and women worldwide. And to me, it's simply unacceptable. Yeah. Because we know what the solution is. We know what causes it. We know how to diagnose it. Mm-hmm. It's just the application of this science into clinical practice. And people are concerned about their skin. There's a lot of vanity out here. But what they really should be concerned is the health of their cardiovascular system. Yeah. If they focus on their cardiovascular system, then every organ's going to work better. Their sex organs, their heart, their brain, and their skin's going to look better. That's really the fountain of youth is let's restore nitric oxide production so we can get adequate oxygen nutrient delivery to every organ, tissue, and cell in the body. Let's mobilize stem cells, repair and replace tissue, and let's get rid of the inflammation, which is the silent killer. And nitric oxide does all of that. It's really very simple. The science is complex. The solution is very simple.
That's great, man. Hey, great talk tonight.
Cheers.
I'm loving the fireside, all right?
And the heartbeat happy hour at night.
If you enjoyed tonight's conversation, stay tuned for more. Make sure to comment too. Let us know if there's any topics that you want to hear, want us to discuss more about. But make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more information. Have a good night.
Thank you.